Continuing on with the series, today we're going to be covering Florian. What up? It's Future Me coming to you a few days after recording this. I jammed some more games with it. While I do like some things about the list, there are some other things that I just couldn't shake. They just really feel awkward. Okay. One more time. Okay, we may have actually made it playable, right? So, third time's the charm. This is like a 5-day thing in progress now. This list was like oddly kind of difficult to figure out just to get this kind of game plan online. So looking at that first list, it's got some garbage in there, right? Like we're playing like tillings, we're playing like a bunch of earth forms, we're playing a lot of these like 2 blocks. Not all of them are even non-attacks, so like your embodiment tokens have like really bad EV. We're playing like incantation. If you ever pitch a card to play incantation and do nothing after that, like you're kind of like, I know you get to swing like Nebula Blade, but like, man, that card feels bad. So like I needed to overhaul the list so that everything gets kind of cleaned out. All the pitch curves are like pretty clean. But then there was a problem of like that other list, which was like way too defensive. We can never put the gas pedal on. Can kind of stack some rune chance in the end game, but you're mainly just trying to attrition someone out. That's kind of okay, but your weapon only comes in for 3 physical, right? Like, yes, I know that you're sending 4, but in terms of card economy, that doesn't quite get there, because actually burning 2 cards from the opponent's deck with a hammer is like pretty important. So we overhauled it all. And we're going to jump into this real quick. We're on a pretty tight mid-range game plan. We're blocking a lot. We're playing like 2 card hands, sometimes 3. We convert if we need to. So whether our opponent puts us on 4 cards or if they're a low life total and we get more equity just ripping cards from them because they have to block or else they die, that's when we need, some go again, right? So we have like blue Oath of the Arcanite. We got blue Earth Lore Surge. Like we can play these in a pinch. Of course we have E-Strike, but like we're playing like pretty tight hands, right? Like we're just gonna like swing Earth Form, try to get our embodiment, and we've upped our non-attacks to get more equity out of these embodiment tokens, right? Like we're just playing Felling, that's a 2 card hand, you get the idea, right? So we're trying to stay on track there. We have refined the deck a bit to be a little bit lower on Earth count, but where we've dropped off Earth cards, we're upping it with 3 block non-attacks. So that's specifically things like Oath of the Arcanite. This curves really well with Reaping. So, you pitch a blue, you play Oath, you swing Reaping Blade, right? If your hero power is online, Red Oath is pretty sick. This card seems kind of whack. I promise, I've practiced it. It is like pretty solid. Could this be cut for something else in the future? Yeah, it could. But for right now, for this list today, I think it's in a good spot, right? You're going to block 4, potentially 5 when you make an embodiment token, or 2, depending on what happens, right? But then also if your hero power is online, this makes 2 rune chance, and you send Reaping Blade, right? So without your hero power, this is a 2 card 7, right? Sending 6 on the Nebula Blade, the Reaping Blade, and then you're sending 1 rune chant. And if your hero power is online, you're sending 2 rune chants, right? So that's pretty good, but it's a 4 block as well, right? So that lets us get equity out of Earth Form, out of Bark Skin, and so we have that in blue as well. And then we're also running Condemned to Slaughter. Like in a pinch, if you need to play this to clear like a really important aura against Prism, or like you're playing against Enigma who just slammed Mirror Guy, like you can play this card, but this is mainly here to block 4. So like don't overthink it. And then the biggest upgrade of this deck was cutting Incantation for Malefic. This card bangs, bro. Like you play this and then you play like Swarming and you make 2 auras just like without the hero power. So the Swarming comes in for 4 with Go Again and makes a rune channel on the back end. But what's more important is that you play this and then you can sit on it. Maybe you have to send a CNC or a Felling. Like it's not incorrect to like ever have like a counter die off of it without Florian's ability online. The cool thing about this is if you play Incantation in the early game and you don't get the hero power online, it ticks down every turn. You don't have a say in it. So a lot of games I was playing with Incantation, I would play it and then it would die without ever having Florian online, right? So the list was like really focused on like turboing out Florian so that these cards were playable. So I had like Tillings and things like that. The cool thing about this card is that you can just play this and then just sit on it forever until your hero power is online. You shouldn't do that, but the point is that like playing this now, this comes up a lot. I play this when the hero power is not online, and maybe 1, maybe 2 charge counters happen when the hero power is online, right? So that's huge. The fact that like you take this 0 for 3, and it could be a 0 for 6 Go Again, right, which is Arcane. And maybe instead of a 0 for 3, maybe it's a 0 for 4, maybe it's a 0 for 5, right? The flexibility of the card is the cool part, and you're not super concerned about making rune chants every single turn. If you're playing like a rune blade deck that cared about aura generation for like card effects, so like you think about like Shrill, you think about Swarming. Like we do have Swarming in this deck, but it's not that big of a deal. Like we can block 3 with it, right? We're playing a mid-range deck. So you don't care that much about like making auras during that turn, the same way that like Viscerai is. So like, and Viscerai is playing this card too. So like this card goes hard. So that was a really big upgrade compared to the first list, which didn't run that, which is bad, right? That's why we don't do that. Well Grounded is pretty cool. We're not running Creepers. Creepers was mainly there to block 1. This blocks 2 and it can split up any direction. It can be Spell Void if you need it to. And the other really cool thing is that when you break this, this gets you closer to that final 8, because this goes to your graveyard as an Earth card. Bramble Spark is sick. So what you do with this card is either you fuse with the Earth card you're going to send, so you keep a 3-card hand with the blue and like Felling, Earth Form, Plow Under, whatever, you get the idea, right? You fuse with the Earth card you're going to play, and then you play it. And then it's 0 for 4, the Bramble Spark is, right? And you get the +1 Arcane Ping, it gets the buff. But what's even cooler is that you can also play it with the Earth card you're going to pitch, right? So that works for things like CNC and Despoiler, a little bit of the sideboard, like Runic Reclamation, right? So you can play that, fuse with whatever blue Earth you're pitching, and then send the CNC for 9, you know, with the ping for 1. In other news of bad cards I was playing in the original list, I was playing like, I forgot the name, I'm blocking out of memory, I don't care. I was playing that yellow non-attack that has you make X rune chance for X's amount of life you gain that turn. I didn't know that card didn't have go again. I thought you could just play like 2 in a turn, or I don't know what I was thinking, but it doesn't have go again. So you play it and your turn's over. So we're not playing that anymore, right? Instead we're playing yellow Rootbound Carapace. And we're not playing the blue. We've just decided to skip out on the blue and go up to the yellow, because the yellow is either a 2 block or it's a 3 block that decomposes. So both of those are like kind of clearing the bar. They're pretty okay. And it's also an Earth card, right? So we get it into our grave. The rest of the deck kind of speaks for itself. You get how the play lines are going to go. You're just filling up your grave in the early game. You're blocking a lot. You're either, you know, sending some 2-card hands, maybe 3 if you got Bramble, or you're keeping 1-card hands and you're going to grasp and send Reaping Blade. You're maybe looking for an opportunity to face Purgatory your opponent. What's kind of cool is the flexibility of this deck is like weird, because having 2 blocks is normally bad, but what it means is that you can block for 6, right? With like 2 bad 2 blocks and face Purgatory, so it doesn't feel like you're completely wasting value to get that trigger sometimes. Like you can block 6 and trigger it, or you could block 8 and trigger it, right, with 3 blocks. So it's really up to you. And then once we get into our second cycle, that's when we're probably going to pitch to Grasp a lot, right? Because then it becomes a 1-card 5 if we need to, or if we're like playing for a little bit more tempo, we're going to like Germinate for a bunch. So we're going to pitch this, get it back in second cycle. This card is insane once your hero power is online. And then also we can play Arcane Seeds whenever we want, although we usually block with this card a lot. I would actually say I rarely play this. My philosophy is that you just block with it every time you see it, unless if your hero power is online, and then you can go ahead and play it. And then to round out some of our blues, run Earthlore Surge. I've also seen people run the Sigil of Deadwood. I think both kind of serve a similar function, where it lets you do something with your hand if your opponent passes back and leaves you like 4 cards. Like you play CNC for 9 with Bramble, they block out, you get 4 cards. What do you do with all these like mid-range cards that aren't supposed to just be a bunch of 0 for 4s, right? So you play Earthlore Surge, it just converts into 2 damage. You could also play Sigil. I could see either one going. I've just really liked Earthlore Surge so far, but you know, do what you want. And then for the rest of our blues, we have Fruits. We just discard it, gain 2. It's really flexible. You can dump it in the graveyard really easily. I would even maybe include the red potentially instead of like Earth Form. I was playing it in Verdance. Every time I had it, it felt nice. We have So Tomorrow. It's kind of weird because like it returns an Earth card from your graveyard deck, which is normally not what you want, but the cool thing here is that it converts well if you have to arsenal like an extra card. It's a really clean arsenal target. It lets you put Felling or Plow back in your deck, which is really powerful. If you get 4 Fellings in a game or 5 with Sows, which I've done, it's insane. Your opponent just cannot like recover in the end game if you're playing Fellings in the first half and then also somehow recycling them and playing them in the second half. And it's kind of a weird trade-off because while you do put a card back with Sotomaro banishes itself, so it's basically neutral. It removes a card from graveyard that's Earth, but it adds a card to banish that's Earth. The downside is that you're removing a card that you could decompose. And then we got Summer's Fall in blue. Like this is just like a good utility blue. Like we just have to have some aura hate for Enigma. Enigma's gonna be pretty strong, a pretty good meta contender, and I think that Florian has a pretty hard weakness to her. You don't go wide and you don't stack a whole lot of like rune chants over the course of your turn. Like if you wanted to sit back and stack so that they can't kill, or like they can't protect Mirror Guy. You could do that, but you're playing at such a slow pace, they're gonna hit you like 4 times with the Mirror Guy, play like 2 other Mirror Guys, and you lose the game. So what are we doing? So you play Summer's Fall in blue and in red, and you just always have the blue in your deck, so you don't have to make like a sideboard consideration for extra blues, right? We just play it. It's an Earth 2 block. It decomposes if we really need to. You could even get cute and like put your own Malefic. I'm gonna reread the card to make sure I can do that. Yes. Okay, you can put Malefic back in the deck if you really need to. And then if we go to our inventory, we got some things. We have a 2-card rights package. This is so that you cannot lose to fatigue, right? Instead, you are the one who fatigues. You are the one who knocks. So you play 2 rights. Your opponent like can't play that game with you anymore. It's that simple. You're just gonna recur them and loot them endlessly. So that's all, right? We're gonna play Runic. Runic is for Illusionist, obviously. It's also insane in the mirror, and I think you play this against KO. I was originally playing this in Viscerai, like mid-range Viscerai when you, this was during the heavy hitters meta, and I played this and I thought it was really strong because you could play into Warrior, and I think I did in a few spots, but it was mostly good into KO because KO would telegraph their agility tokens a lot easier. Warrior can make them an instant speed, but KO they'd have to play Cast Bones, or they'd have to do some other kind of effect to make the agility a lot of the times. Most of the time they would swing Claw, discard Agile windup. So you have complete knowledge of what they're trying to do. So then you send the Runic Reclamation, threaten to destroy their agility, and all of a sudden you have a 3 for 7 with an on hit that threatens to shut down whatever their pop-off turn was going to be. There's all kind of use cases. You can bring this in against like Acilio, for instance. You can threaten like some of their auras. You can threaten Channel Valley, all this kind of crazy stuff. It's got a lot of utility. I would almost consider it like main board, depending on what the meta is. But, you know, obviously it's a tech card, right? So it's easier to communicate that by just putting it in the sideboard down here. But I bring it into a lot of matchups currently. We have Sigil. This is against aggro, but more importantly, this is also against Enigma. I really do think Enigma is like a big problem for this deck, and you unfortunately do have to tech a lot to make this playable. What this means is that if they have a turn that's just they block down and they go Chi, Mirror Guy, Tunic, and swing it, Sigil of Suffering blocks, oh, what's the math here? It's going to block like 12, something like that. Blocks the 8, you know, pops their ward 4. Pretty insane, right? Which means that if they see one Sigil, they have to start respecting it, right? They have to play around every single Sigil. So this is just also Enigma tech, but you bring this into all the aggro matchups, right? Like if you're playing against like Aurora, they're not pitching, right? They might not even bring Arcane Barrier. So when you're playing this, it's a 0 for 5. On defense, you're stopping an on hit. You get the idea. In line with that, we also have Sync. We're only running 2 Syncs because I think that Sigil is what you need 3 of right now. It could very well change, and then maybe we go down to 2 Sigils and then 3 Syncs, but I think that Sigil has some pretty targeted matchups right now. Sync is just generically a good card, but you bring this in more if you need to block more often, basically. And then we have Red Summer's Fall, self-explanatory. And then we have Carapace plus Quill Hand for, you know, AB2 or 3, depending on what you need. Or AB1, of course, right? We just bring Quill Hand into the mirror. So that's the overall deck. It finally feels playable, and maybe instead of C tier, it's B tier. We'll see how it turns out, but this hopefully is a good starting point. I tried to rework this list a lot because the first one was just like not ready. Like I made the deck tech, I made it over the weekend, so like 4 or 5 days ago, and I just sat on it because I was like something's off here. Like there has to be something better that we could be doing. So I think this is a better direction for the deck. Plays really heavy mid-range, but also has like good aggression and really good split damage. Once you turn the corner with Malefic, it's pretty sick. So I'm going to throw up just like an example game because someone requested that. So hopefully it's helpful. We'll jump into that. All right, I'm here to jump in and give this deck a spin. So we're probably going to bring Quill Hand into Viscerai. We definitely want some of our Aura Destruction. I don't think we want all of it. We could think about Sync and Sigil. These both can be pretty good, especially denying things like on hits. I'm going to assume that they're not on an OTK plan, in which case we don't need Summer's Fall. Now we could be wrong in the Gambit, but it is what it is. I think Runic is better on hit than Earth Form, so that's going to be our first cut. And then we have to ask if we want to bring in Sync, and then we have to ask if we want to bring in Sigil here. Since we're going second, I think we have less equity playing more defense reactions, so I'm kind of leaning more towards the O's, so we're just going to play it as is and then see how this goes. All right, so now we're in game. We have a pretty bad going second hand, to be honest. We can play these, but they don't get any of the bonuses. We'll go ahead and at least play this. And now We could potentially fill up the grave a little bit, like we could send Felling here. We could also just opt to play the Oath and then swing Reaping Blade. It's more damage. The main problem here is we don't get to Arsenal, and then we also don't get to put any Earth cards into grave. This honestly probably isn't the best example of the deck list. Not for any reason in particular, but mostly just because we're missing Grasp here. We're missing out on a lot of the play lines, having to run the AB1 into Viscerai, but hopefully this would still give a pretty good idea of how you want to play this deck. But, you know, Grasp into Reaping Blade would be a perfectly fine option that we just don't have access to. This is going to be a pretty sick hand, though. We're going to go ahead and fuse with the blue card that we're going to pitch to go ahead and send Runic. This is going to come in for 10. We're going to opt to Arsenal our Earthlore Surge. My assumption is that we're going to draw some blocking cards from them, which means that we're more likely to get extra cards here. I was entirely wrong. I think they may just be taking this. I don't think it really matters which one we take. They're both the same. I guess maybe if they have something that benefits off creation of auras in the same turn, like swarming, it would be better to take that. But the main problem there is that they also get to make a rune chant. So not super sure. It's probably just better to take the rune chant, so that's probably a misplay on my part. We have one earth card, so our hope here is that they close the chain halfway through the turn, so that way we can still decompose our Carapace. This is where, if we were playing a different deck, we would just block down to like the Earthlore Surge, pitch to Grasp, and then swing Reaping Blade. Although in our case, we can't use Grasp because we already have a Rune Chant on the table. But we may get the option. We may get the option to actually be able to use a Carapace to decompose, which is ideally what we want to do. Man, I'm still thinking that Runic play was probably wrong, but we should have set their existing Rune Chant, to be honest. And this does have yellow Mob Skies on hit. This is really unfortunate because if we had one more Earth card, like what we talked about earlier, we would just get to play Rootbound Carapace. We wouldn't need to think about blocking with anything else here. And we would also get to decompose as well. I really don't like the prospect of them getting 2 extra Rune Chants though. This is basically going to be a mid-range style game plan, so I think all of these points matter. But there's not even a guarantee that they may close the chain here. Like, this could just be Rune Flash or Swarming. Okay, it's Reed. So I guess we're kind of glad that we decided to block there. We wouldn't have got the option. But the thought process was if they have any chain extender into Reaping Blade, there's not even a guarantee that we're going to turn on Carapace in that turn. So maybe it's getting 3 Valley out of it over blocking. The yellow Moth hit's good enough. Okay, here's where we can actually start like doing some kind of interesting lines. So we can play Malefic and then start playing things like Swarming. So that's pretty sweet. We can also just play the Malefic, block out, and then wait till we actually have a hand that we want to use Malefic for. And like I said, I think Malefic is probably one of the most powerful cards in the deck right now. It's just really powerful for what you want to do. Wow, we're gonna get 9th bladed. That's pretty cool. So our turn is probably gonna be Malefic, Swarming. Under other circumstances, we can also think of Purgatory. This is just not the time for that. So now we're tied up on life total, but we're about to crack back. So I would say we're probably slightly ahead right now. We also haven't gotten our hero power online yet. That's the biggest thing between these two heroes, is that Viscerai basically has Florian's hero text, but starting from turn 1, which is a pretty hard sell, honestly, on Florian compared to like Viscerai. Like, it kind of feels like Viscerai is playing the exact same game plan right now as us, except a little bit better. Where we make up for it though is that we get the Earth Pool, and the Earth Pool is pretty sick. So we have some pretty good cards, right? Not that we haven't played any yet. We're still waiting to resolve Felling or Plow, but you know, those are the reasons to play something like this. And also Millennium Tree can be pretty insane. So it looks like we're gonna get probably a bigger hand next turn. That can be pretty good for us. We kind of need something here. I just realized that my opponent actually didn't bring AB. I don't know why I just picked up on that now, but that really changes things for us because that means that we have like basically a different win condition at this point. So we could play Germinate for 5, but our hero power isn't online, so there's kind of no point to do that. Instead, we're just going to send Runic. Kind of a bummer. Kind of wish that we could convert more of the hand here, of course, but this is fine. We're just going to ditch Condemn. We were going to IP ourselves anyway, so actually this is pretty advantageous for us. They do get to stop the on hit though, which is definitely good for them. We would have obviously hit Incantation. Let's see, we have Sonata. Our main goal here is just to use Carapace hopefully at some point during this turn. Start getting cards in the grave. They're gonna add red Vexing to hand. Do we care about denying 1 rune chant? I don't think that we do. So instead we're just gonna play this here. And we'll decompose. Snuff out is pretty cool. I think our main game plan here is we're going to take the Arcane, we're going to block for 6, and we're just gonna Arsenal E-Strike. Alright, blocking for 6. We're kind of hoping for a bit of an off turn from them. And we also still need to get our hero power online. We're still waiting to draw, you know, like disruption, anything like that. Okay, so with this we can turn the hero power online, which is good. So I think our plan here is turn the hero power online, play 2 Malefics, and then hope that we can turn the corner. Them being with no AB means that our win condition changes, so we're playing for rune chant damage, which is pretty reasonable here. It means that we're going to play the game a lot slower as well, though. We'll decompose with the yellow to block 3. We'll ditch 2 of these. So now we're at 5. Let me double check the grave. Yeah, we should be good. It's a lot of arcane. We really need to crawl back a little bit. I think we're going to, just because we're going to have access to tree, purgatory, and the boots. But this is definitely a little scary, for sure. We'll decompose with our red. But this is such an insane setup here. And hero power is online now. And we just need them to brick, although, you know, we're at 11. This is pretty intimidating for sure. This is exactly where the deck wants to be at this point. We just maybe got here a little bit too late. So our turn is probably, it depends on what we need to do. Ideally we would just play E-Strike for like 7. We can block with Tree here, and we'll get 2 embodiments, which means that Germinate will block for 5, so this blocks for 7 with just the Tree plus Germinate here. We could also block, you know, for 6 with like 2 non-attacks plus Purgatory. So if they play something like High Notes here, they do not. It's a blue mauve. I don't think we have a reason yet to pull the trigger on any armor. So we're just pitching down. Although, if we're going to be strict about this, we should make sure we keep the Summer's-Fall in our hands so that Purgatory can be online if we need it to be. We can only pay for 1 here. And then we'll go ahead and we'll block for 3. If they send a tall attack, we don't need Bark Skin. We're just going to block with Purgatory. But this is a problem, for sure. Not gonna lie. I would like to keep the E-Strike. I would like to keep a card to play with the E-Strike, but I think we're just gonna do that when we pull the trigger on Purgatory. My guess here is that we're only gonna eat Reaping. We go down to 5 and they still keep an Arsenal though, so this is kind of a problem, right? I'm just hoping that with no Arsenal... Oh. Okay, so we're going even lower. I think we're going down to 1 here. Going down to 1. It's not great. We've seen a lot of different Vexings, so there's a lot of different ways that those can kill us. We do have well grounded though, so I think we're fine to eat this. But this is a problem for sure. So ideally we get to keep felling here. The most ideal hand is we get to keep Bramble, and then we also get to send off felling, but my guess is that we're not going to get to do that. Okay, so doing to get red Vexing, but we have access to the boots. And then we can block with Carapace. No point in decomposing here. So here's a pretty interesting question. We could play the E-Strike for 5 go again, and that way we actually get to trigger all the incantations. I don't think it's lethal. I wish it was. We'll go ahead and see after we pop Cool Hand. But this is where the deck would be pretty impressive. Right, this is 5, so this is 11, plus the 8 here. And this is pretty cool, but like I said, it may just be a little bit too late for something like this. They can armor block this and keep 4 cards. And if they have a Vexing, we're in trouble. If we don't draw fruits, we could just lose. We maybe could have looked for a different opportunity to use Bark Skin. If we live a turn, we win, because we're just gonna pop Cool Hand and swing Reaping and win the game. So we'll see if we get to do that. It'd be massive if we do. So seems likely. Oh, this is actually the hardest decision because we kind of need to keep fruits. We need to keep fruits because if they have Vexing, we're dead. The main question is, what are they gonna do after this? So we're pitching for 1. They're gonna Viscerai. They could pop Tunic, use Grasp, and swing Reaping, in which case our blue doesn't get us there. The other alternative is that we block with Bark Skin and Purgatory here, so that way we block 4, and then if they send a follow-up here, like a 4 attack, then our Oath also gets to block 4. What a hard decision. Like I said, if they pass here, we win, because we're going to pop Cool Hand, make 3 Rune Chants. So if they don't kill us on this turn, we get to keep 1 hand, we win the game. So we need to figure out how we're doing that. We could just put them on having Vexing. I think we had to play to the line that wins here. And I think the line that wins here is just pitching fruits and just making them have it. So again, Dirge is fine. If they can't kill us, we win. So I think we're safe here. And then we're gonna block for 3. I don't think it really matters which card we block with. We'll just block with that for fun, right? You know, can flex our 2 embodiments here. And then we're gonna go ahead and make 3 Rune Chants and potentially win the game. All right, there it is. Wow, clawed that one out. Pretty surprising, honestly. Pretty unfortunate we didn't get any more Malefic triggers, because that's where they really, you know, put in work. But you got to see 1 turn of them. So obviously in a much more grindy game, you get all, you know, 3 counters off of them, and so each of those are worth 2 Rune Chants each. So on the swing turn with E-Strike and Felling, we got to like just stack 6 Rune Chants after the attack. So you're mainly trying to play those after the hero powers online, but the nice part about this list is that when we played one earlier in the game with Swarming, it was still perfectly viable. Because when you play it with Swarming, it's the aura, it makes the second aura, so you're already at 2, so your Swarming's already at 4. So the nice part about it compared to like the older list that was playing like Incantation is Incantation's so awkward because it costs 1. You can play with Nebula Blade, but I think that just having that 0 cost just cleans up so many things. Our line wouldn't be possible, you know, with Incantation, and it also being able to sit there for a while you block out was really nice. Like we played our Incantations, and I think our third one, or sorry, our first one actually got 1 counter off like after our hero power was on, which was like multiple turns afterwards, right? So Incantation would already be done. Yeah, so that's how the deck plays. You're kind of playing a bit more mid-range, so we blocked a lot this game. If we had Grasp, it changes a lot of the dynamic because we block a lot more, and then we just like make a Rune Chant, send Reaping, and then after the hero powers online, we're sending 5. But yeah, that's just one game to throw along with the deck text so that you can kind of see it in action because someone did request that. So hopefully it's helpful. Until next time, thank you for watching.